Welcome to the Small Town Big Arts Podcast. I'm Jeffrey Kirshner, the Director of MFA in Arts Leadership at Randolph College and an Associate Consultant with Ryan Ripperton Consulting. And this podcast is for the people doing the real work of keeping arts and culture alive in small towns and rural communities across America. We dig into the challenges, the wins, and the strategies that matter most for organizations just like yours. If you like what you hear, rate and review us, and most importantly, share with those working in the arts in small communities across the United States. Well, this week on Small Town Big Arts, I'm really excited to welcome some fellow Virginians to the cast. And I was really fortunate while I'd been working on the SARA project, the Small Town and Rural Arts Network for the Virginia Commission for the Arts. I got a correspondence from the VCA from John Ross, the board president of the Fine Arts Center for the New River Valley. And John had some really exciting news and information about a program that they're running down in the New River Valley, specifically Pulaski and Blacksburg, Virginia, for those who are familiar with the area. And so on the call today, or on the podcast today, to talk a little bit about this program, we have Brandon Phillips, the Executive Director of the Fine Arts Center for the New River Valley. As I mentioned, John Ross, the board president of the organization, and Katie Shepard, who runs the Blacksburg Gallery. She's the director of the Blacksburg Gallery. I know we're going to talk a bit about that relationship to the program and how that works. So welcome to the podcast, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
So I think to get started, and Brandon, maybe you can kick this off for us. Tell me a bit about the Fine Arts Center itself, a bit about Pulaski, what you all do, and a bit more about the community you serve.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're very excited to be here. We're a nonprofit serving the arts in Pulaski and now Blacksburg, and we've been in existence for 48 years. We have classes, we have rotating exhibits at our Pulaski location, we have a concert series, and we do local events for the community as well. And so we're very focused on empowering artists and just connecting people with the arts that may not have connected with them in the past. That's a passion for us as well.
Well, the support of the artists is something I'm really excited to talk about today. We spend a lot of time on the podcast talking to organizational leaders, which we are today, but very often, we'll talk about programs, and the focus on the artists themselves is really exciting, and I think something that is particularly important when we're talking about smaller communities. So very excited about that. So I think to begin, and maybe we'll kind of round robin this a little bit and see how it goes. You all, as a part of that support for artists, you have launched this entrepreneur program, and it's Artrepreneur Program. How did this arise? What problem were you trying to address or solve, or need were you trying to address with this new program?
Yeah, so over time, we just realized that there was a real vacuum for this sort of program within the community. We've noticed that a lot of artists, they were interested in growing skill sets, such as being able to price their work more effectively, just be able to talk about their process, to be able to write grant applications, to be able to write press releases, the whole business side of being an artist. And we want to help them on their pathway in terms of that. Also, finding consistent income streams is something that a lot of artists need and value, and we want to support that as well. There's a gap that we recognize between making art and making a living from art, and that's what we wanted to address with the program.
That's great. Now, it's an 8-week program. So About,
So
is
it
it
kicks
about
off,
that?
it kicks off with 8 weeks of working sessions,
Okay.
but we want them to be in our community. We want to support them going past this. We want to bring in additional cohorts. So we provide background on all those things that Brandon just talked about: your artistic identity, your digital presence, your bookkeeping, business plan. That takes 8 weeks, but after that, we want them to stick around and continue to work together and to talk together.
Mm,
Uh, and we've got a little online group that we hope will grow with new cohorts over time. And
that's great.
we'll feature them on our website and in our social media. We'll feature them in exhibits and in events.
So there's a training component and there's a platform component. That's
Mhm.
that's fantastic.
And
Um, how? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say if I can just chime in
Yes,
also
please,
on
Katie. Please.
I think one of the really unique and excellent aspects of this is that cohort and community building. Um, I'm obviously like a part of this because of being in charge of the Blacksburg satellite site, but um, one of the other reasons that I was pulled in to help with the entrepreneurs was because I own a small arts business.
Mm,
It's my day job, and that's one of the things that when you are starting out with this, it's so important to have that community and have that cohort.
mm,
And when John first presented this program that he wanted to do, I think that was one of the number one things that stood out to me because there's so many like different programs that people try to advertise to you of like, oh, this your business off the ground, and
yeah.
a lot of them are like the same thing again and again and again. But the community aspect, I cannot emphasize how important that is if you want to be any type of like small business, craft vendor, etc. It's going to change the entire outlook for you.
And Katie, I imagine for artists, so we're speaking to a smaller community or rural context.
Mhm,
We've found in this work that there is a lot of social isolation that can happen for
mhm.
folks, right? Whether they're leading in the arts, or the artists themselves. So, are you all finding that there in New River Valley and Southwest Virginia, are you finding that that is the case? That this community is also just as important due to rural isolation? Is that a component?
Well, and I don't know if it's specifically because it's rural, but I think one of the things, especially if you're like an individual who goes through art school, right?
Mhm.
One of the things, the vacuum that becomes really, really obvious once you graduate is you're like, oh, suddenly I don't have people to critique with. I don't
Mhm.
have a group of people to like show my artwork and get feedback and all of these things. And I think just this career can be very isolating once you exit those educational spaces. And it's really difficult because of how separate you are. And we have this idea in our mind that the arts are like a solo sport, but they're
Mhm.
really a team sport,
Yeah.
just like anything else. And so, like, when I started doing art as a business, that was the most difficult thing. It was like, I don't even know where to start, right? I don't know what shows to go to. I don't know, like, all these number of things. But if I had been able to start with a cohort, with a group of people, then suddenly even the things that we don't know are less terrifying
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
you've got a
Makes
whole
sense.
team to spread the work over of like even something as simple as like okay, each of us is going to go research like 5 shows. Now I don't have to research 50 shows myself, you know. And to get feedback because you're like I don't know how to price things. Like, okay, I have a cohort. So I've got 10 people right here, or I guess 8 in this case, that can say, like, yeah, I would totally buy that for that price. Or, I don't know, that might be out of budget for here. Or, whoa, you are underselling your product. Right.
Yeah.
And just to have people to get feedback from that are real people that are going to be honest with you because they also are in this, right? It's very different. I mean, obviously, family, friends, etc., all wonderful people to consult, but it's there's like a little bit of different bias in it
Mm-hmm,
than
mm-hmm.
having people who are also in this field with you, even if you're not doing the same type of art. To be in the field with you is a very different experience of having that community. I don't
Yeah.
know if that is your question.
On the
No, no,
community,
that makes a lot of sense. Go ahead, John.
I would like to, on the community aspect, that is the primary goal of the project. This is a long term coming. We did a lot of research. We talked to a lot of artists. We talked to artists who have done similar programs, and we did surveys with. We've been here for almost 50 years. We know a lot of artists, so we sent out surveys to artists. What would you want from this? And the community was the number one thing they wanted.
Mm, that's very that resonates in a lot of ways right now, actually, and in the work that we're doing with Sarah across organizational leaders, artists themselves. That makes a lot of sense. So the journey, just to recap, the journey is this eight weeks of sort of intensive learning, and then that moves into providing them visibility, a platform, as well as this really needed community and connection. Um, how did you mentioned in the press release, Brandon, a mix of topics that are covered. It includes portfolio, digital presence, financial literacy, business planning. How did you land on this particular mix of topics for that beginning of the artist journey as they move through the program?
I think a lot of it was just through consulting with different artists. And also, we have these connections with the small business development people, and they were able to guide us as well to reach on this particular curriculum. So we thought a lot about the skill sets that are very valuable and very needed for them. And some of those are specific to artists, but then some of those skills are specific to anybody that's running a small business. And we wanted to cover all of that and then ultimately expand it beyond that so that we're supporting them long term. So we will also engage them by letting them set up booths at our Rhythm by the Rose Festival this summer, which we're really excited about. And we're going to feature them on our website. And we're also going to have an exhibit this year featuring the cohort. So it's all of these goals within the program and then supporting them beyond the program as well.
That's great. And I've realized, as we've begun talking about this, we've talked about a bit of the education component, the community component, the platform component, but there are some financial benefits to the artists as well. John, do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, like I said, this has been a long-term project, and we first started talking to lots of artists, and then we started doing research for different arts organizations. And we then talked with the town of Pulaski's economic developer because we thought, this is an economic development project, really. And she was very excited about that. And she said, you need to talk to Lydia Crockett. And Lydia is the director of the Small Business Solutions in Pulaski. A lot of regions, a lot of places have them. So she does it for all of Pulaski County. And she was so excited. And because this is a group of people that she doesn't work with, but this is the kind of work that she does with the people that she does work with.
Hmm.
So she put us in contact with then the Small Business Development Council in Roanoke, which is Roanoke and New River Valley. And Lydia was not only supportive in terms of telling us, maybe you should consider this, or maybe you could have this presenter. She stepped up and gave us a small grant to get started so we could spend time, planning and logistics and purchasing materials. The artists do pay a small tuition fee. It's $10 a week, so it's $80. So it's not a whole lot.
That's
But
very that's great.
yeah, but if they live in Pulaski County and they complete a business plan, which is our last week. So our last week, they're going to learn how to write a business plan. from somebody from the Small Business Development Council, and then they get free one-on-one time with him or with Lydia to complete their business plan. And if they do, they qualify for a $1,500 small business grant.
That's awesome. It's one of the things that I love about this program too is that as we've been in Southside Virginia doing work in capacity building with, in particular, organizations, one of the things that we really encourage the organizational leaders as well as very often individual artists who are doing work is that it is really essential. We've heard about the value of the community of artist to artists, but also how essential it is to be branching out and identifying, broader community needs and assets, right, that could be utilized for arts activity. And the work with economic development professionals in your community, thinking more broadly in terms of how the arts are plugging into the business sector and then utilizing resources that are there is something that we definitely want listeners and folks who are moving through anything on small to big arts to hear, because this is really important when we're thinking about the work that we're doing and creating sustainability around it. John, you mentioned that the Fine Arts Center is contributing over $70,000 to the local economy annually, which I might make an argument that it might even be even more. We certainly know from we've been really lucky with things like the economic impact calculator. We can kind of figure out things like this in terms of the impact. But I imagine too, some of those individual artists are probably making impact that's even not registered or seen. What I want to dive a little bit more into Pulaski and then also Katie, if we want to talk a little bit about Montgomery County and in and around Blacksburg. What the needs are there right now, right? What does it look like? And then in turn, we see that the economic development professionals in the community were interested in this, wanted to support it, wanted to plug in. How is this all aligning with sort of where the community is right now, what the community needs?
Well, I'll start. I think VCA knows that downtown Pulaski, where we're located, we're actually the longest running business in Pulaski at this point at 48 years.
Oh, wow.
We went through some infrastructure updates for 3 years that made it almost impossible to get downtown. The road was torn up, pipes were put in, sidewalks were gone, and visitors just crashed. We just lost all visitors, but it's all back up and it looks beautiful now, and the streetscape's there. We've got new businesses coming in because it looks so nice. And um, throughout all of that, we were like the only organization that was still promoting art, still trying. We would take kids art, we do free kids classes, and we would go to a different place where they could get to, and there was parking so they could keep doing art. And for some of these kids, that's about the only art they get to do outside of school. And we still did concerts and things, free concerts to try and get, keep that going. Along with all that, we know a lot of artists, and a lot of them are maybe on the craft side, and a lot of them are really fine artists. And when we weren't open or we weren't able to be there for them, it really hurt their work as well, their income. Mm-hmm. So when this came around, when this project came about, it was the hardest part was narrowing it down to just a manageable number of artists, because we know a lot of artists, but we've got some really great people who are in the program. We have a wide range of them. We have photographers, we have 3D artists, we have painters, we have all kinds. And the very first week, it's like, okay, either they're going to like each other and talk to each other, or they're not. And say, it went so well. I mean, yeah. They opened up, they shared. I mean, artists don't like to talk about themselves. Many artists don't like to talk about. Some do, and they don't like to talk about their work. That's messy. That's my. Go look at the work. You figure. But no, they start talking to each other about their process and sharing, and it's been really good the whole time.
So this is, I imagine, post road construction and all the work.
Yes.
This is probably helping drive activity and bring things back, which is great.
Yeah.
Katie, down in and around Montgomery County and Blacksburg, what's it like down there right now? How are things, not just for the artist community, but just kind of thinking more broadly, and then how the ecosystem the artists find themselves in.
Yeah. So I am going to start with the arts community. I think I think one of the biggest hurdles from my perspective is accessibility to participating in the arts, which you probably would not think would be the case, especially looking at Blacksburg because we have such a wealth of arts, right?
And a big
Um,
university too. So
yeah, exactly. Um, but accessibility to participating in the arts is frequently limited by financial accessibility, right? And
mhm.
so we have some arts organizations in the area, like the closest you would get to like an arts guild, right? But for the most part, the people who are inhabiting those spaces are hobbies, and many of the people who are able to access those spaces are people who um, are retired or like their spouse has the full-time job and then they're able to then because of that financial stability able to participate and there's not as much space for people who just want to make this their career and I hope we can move into a version of the world where you can do that much more accessibly, right? That you don't have to start with like a launch of all this like financial support network from other people. That you can just do this because I mean, the arts are the closest, or they're one of the most human, like base human things, right? Like the most you get to authenticity and liberation um and so just like not having that financial accessibility um I think and people assuming that there is accessibility becomes like one of these difficulties for me. One of the things which I have not mentioned to John and Brandon, but one of my personal things as I'm seeing this entrepreneur group develop is I'm like, oh man, but what if we could get what if down the line we're able to actually make an artisans guild that then can advocate for themselves? Because I think there's also
Yeah.
a big jump between um like part of the reason I love this entrepreneur program is that I have seen the area try to do other programs, but they're not tailored to artists and they think artists are just going to fit into it, and the financial expectation and the business expectation just doesn't match up, and so they automatically accidentally exclude artists and artisans.
Mm.
And so if we're able to create a group that can come together and advocate for themselves as a guild, as a community, to be able to then go and be like, hey, this is what we need for this and this event, or this is what we need to see these things happen, so that we can get like um, accessible pricing for like vendor cohorts and different things like that, and just to be able to get things rolling, because a lot of that stuff is when you're just one person, you're like, well, I can't like argue that they need to make more accessible pricing because I'm just one person and they'll just replace me. But if you can have a whole group that essentially unionized together, right?
Hmm.
Then you can be like, hey, we're gonna bring, 30 incredible artisans to this event. Here's what we need the pricing to be, and you're locked in, and we've already got 30 people for you, and we're gonna have a really cohesive, beautiful show that's gonna bring folks to your event. I
Yeah.
went off on a rabbit hole there.
No,
Uh,
it's great. It's the power of collective action, right? So,
mhm,
you know, you know what I love about talking to you all about this is that you're coming in a lot of it, a lot of it from the outside, which I think it is still is uh, you know economic empowerment, economic impact, It's so interesting how much of this, though, at the end of the day, the underlying fabric and strength is community and coalition building, which is clearly a need. And one of the things that I love too is that you all had a process correct where there was artist input before the program was built. Is that correct? And how did you all do that? What was the process of getting that input? Brandon, you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did do surveys of the artists in advance to see what they were most interested in out of this program, and it was really interesting. And it was also really interesting once we got the cohort actually together and to see them express that they saw the program succeeding. Some of our early feedback, the very first class, they told us that they'd actually be interested in even longer sessions, per each day, which that
Mm,
was exciting to hear. Um, you're doing something right when they want even longer sessions.
you, definitely, definitely.
And I'll
Well,
add, so my background is in, I'm an instructional designer. So um, I did the needs assessment and I went out and interviewed my audience members and I
yeah,
looked at all the
yeah.
programs and I did all that stuff. And then I crafted potential topics and we sent out potential topics to artists and say on a scale of 1 to 10 or whatever, what's important to you and what's missing. And so I did what an instructional designer would do to come up with the 8 weeks that we're doing because we figured eight's still a big commitment, but we figured we could get them for 8 weeks. And as Brandon said, now we're learning. Oh, here's this little mini topic that we didn't get to, so we're doing little screen capture videos and saying, try this to do this thing. Or
Mm-hmm.
Katie and Brandon are going to do some videos together to talk about considerations around framing or around matting, simple things.
That's great.
Oh,
This is
oh,
actually, yeah, really important to hear. Yeah, go ahead, Katie.
sure. I was gonna say one thing also that I think is important. John also had myself and then a couple other um seasoned vendors look at some of the stuff, which I think is important
Mm,
because um I think you start with surveying the people who are going to be your audience, but also recognize that when you haven't done the thing yet, you might not know all of the questions that you want to ask. And so bringing in some of us who've done this to be like, hey, actually, here's the thing that I really wish someone had talked to me about
oh yeah,
as well.
And to
yeah.
also be facilitators. So Katie has facilitated something like last week was amazing. So Katie does lots of shows and it was all about the show and how to find the right show. And Katie set up her display inside of the fine arts center, the big tent and all this stuff. And then we made all the artists do one on their own. So we gave them a bunch of tables and chairs. So it's like, okay, what have you learned? Here's some pseudo art. It was like dishes and stuff like that, and tablecloths, and to see them working together and to think about, should the table be in the front? Should the table be in the back? So the sessions have all been very hands on, but like these outside people like Katie, and then some experts from the Small Business Development Council are just really making it very real for these people and very valuable.
Are you finding too that um, in this facilitation process of connecting, particularly when you've got the economic development professionals, is there? We talked about the relationship from artist to artist. Is there also some relationships building from artist to community through this too, through the facilitation and the process itself?
So that was week 2.
Yeah.
That was so we're building these things over time. Like the first week was artist identity and coming up with an artist statement, and then week 2 was understanding the community and going out into the community and finding places for your art. We're getting up to the point where we're going to write proposals, and well, they've identified places in the community where they might do art, so they're now going to write proposals because we've taught them how to take pictures of their art and to write, descriptions of their art. And so it's building over time. So by the end, they want to go out into their community and be known as an artist in their community. So that's been our focus.
That's great. That is great. We try to reinforce that all the time, the importance of of getting out. You have to be visible. You have to be meeting people, right?
Mhm.
It's to be seen as a critical part of the community. You have to be out and in that community. Brandon, what's your long-term vision for this? Where do you see it? Katie sort of dropped some possible guild ideas and other things. Tell me a little bit of what you're hoping the future will
Yeah,
be.
so our hope is that this will come back year after year and expand each year. We had talked, tentatively about some ideas, so maybe expanding it so that we have two different cohorts, maybe, for example, one in the spring and one in the fall, and maybe
Mm,
one would be in Pulaski and one would be in Montgomery County. Those are just ideas for now, but we'd love to see that expansion, and we'd love for it to create a ripple effect where it affects the local economy beyond just artists themselves. And we'd love for the artists to feel a sense of confidence in their artists and businesses and in their futures and just in their abilities as well. And we're really excited to see it come back next year. And we'll take everything that we've learned this year and tweak it, implement it, and make it even bigger and better.
that's great. I maybe I'll ask this of each of you because you might have a different response to this. But what would you say to another small arts center in a small community that's watching what you're doing here and maybe listening to this and wondering if they could do something similar? Because obviously, programs like this can be replicated, and it would be awesome to see it replicated in other communities, right? To give artists connectivity both inside and outside the artist community, give them business capacity, um, you know, a sense of confidence when they're moving in and about those spaces. So if somebody was looking to do something similar, John, we'll start with you. What might you share?
Well, one, it doesn't matter what size you are, you can do this. Our board this has been on our strategic plan. We have two goals, big goals per year. One is a community art project, and then this thing. And we've been working on it for 3 years. So we finally got to the point where we could launch it. And the surprising thing was the support for artists from the economic development community.
Mm,
And that's not a community that I think artists think about.
yeah,
There's all kinds of services that are available out there. Many of them are available for free or they paid for through your tax dollars. And latching onto them has just really made this program possible. And we could do all the art stuff, but some of the business stuff, they've come in. And I will also say the economic development community understands that you need to pay people to develop and run things. And
uh,
and I write lots of arts grants and it's for a project and I can't pay my people. And
mhm,
so it's like, well, that's great. I can do a project, but nobody can staff it. But the
mm,
economic development community understands you've got indirect costs, you've got overhead costs. So we're going to help you out with those things.
that's great. Katie, how about you?
Yeah, so I think two things. Um, One, great question, and that made me think about the way that the same way we're trying to create a cohort of artists. Gosh, wouldn't it be nice if we had cohorts of art galleries?
Mm,
And like these types of things where we could all connect and share our resources and things because there's no reason to reinvent the wheel every time. But the second thing is, um, I really think that I would encourage them to make their programs as specific and tailored to their communities as they can, right? Like take the framework.
mhm,
Certainly there's a framework that's going to carry over, regardless of what size or location or that sort of thing. But then tailor it to your community specifically. Um, that's the way that you're going to get people interested in the program to start with. Because we are constantly, constantly bombarded with so much like spam and noise of like, you should take this program, you should do this, this is going to help you with your business. And again, like, so much of it is noise. So as soon as you start tailoring it to the real people in the real situations in your real community, I think that you're going to get a lot more people on board and engaged and excited. And from those things, that's how you actually make a successful program. And that's how you grow that community and, get people to then pay it forward and help future members of that community.
Yeah, each community is unique. Each community of artists is unique. This kind of goes back to John's point too about that initial research phase, right? And Katie mentions, which I think is absolutely right too, it also builds awareness and excitement as you're moving through that process itself. So it's not just about data collection and information, but it's also about building excitement. And but in turn, right, these programs, like any arts endeavor, needs to be a reflection of the community itself. If it's going to have value, and the community is going to care about that, and it's going to be useful, right? To Katie's point, it's not going to just be noise. It's going to be something specific to Montgomery, specific to Pulaski. So, Brandon, for you, what would you share?
I would say to dream big, just like John says, no matter what size your organization is, it's feasible. And once you start involving different participants and then also different potential instructors and different consultants in this process, you get so many different perspectives and it helps you so much. And then you can also draw on past programs like ours as well, take a look at what we've done with this. And then also, once you're in the program itself, don't be afraid to adapt it as you go along. Like we realized that we can make extra videos about framing pieces, about
Mm,
matting pieces to share with artists. And we also shared additional videos with them that can help them with the Meta Business Suite and things like that. And I think that those little extra bits of resources for the participants is really helpful. And then also letting them collaborate with each other and just bounce ideas off of each other is really helpful. And it's been exciting to see how they've interacted. And I think that's going to be really helpful. It truly is a cohort where they're helping each other as well as us trying to facilitate them as well.
yeah, leaving that space for them to connect and own what they're doing. I think that
Mm.
that's been a big takeaway for me in listening to this today. So I think I we would love folks to model this, right? So and we I want to make sure that folks know where to find information about the program. Where can Brandon? Where can folks find information?
Yeah, so we're going to feature the artists on our website, but we will also include a press release and other information on our website about the program so they can go and find more information like that. And then also, if they'd like to connect with us as well, they can reach out to us at info@facnrv.org, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
That's great. That's great. And I would really encourage folks to check out the Entrepreneurs Program that has been developed by the Fine Arts Center. This is great, and it clearly is meeting a need. There is the economic side of it in terms of skill sets and the workshops and all that's happening there, but uh, to Katie and John and Brandon's point too, the connectivity to each other, the community, is also essential. And not just on a emotional psychological level, but also practical. Because Katie's point too, that there is sharing that can move across the cohort with individuals when they gather and perhaps even organize, as Katie said. So and it is important, right? The arts having a more unified voice does mean more power. So we don't want to forget that at the end of the day. Well, this has just been fantastic. I've been so excited to get to know more about the work that you're doing in Pulaski and Montgomery. I'm excited to share this. I think we'll definitely be pulling you all in at points to share with the Sarah community as things roll out down the road, but also excited to share this more widely nationally for folks to remember individual artists and their needs for community, small business skill sets, and the opportunities that you have in creating something like this, that it's going to connect people to things like an economic development authority or council or commission in a community that has cross sector benefits. So this is just really fantastic. John, Brandon, Katie, thank you so much for all you do. And for those listening to the podcast, we'll have links and information in the podcast notes as well. So thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Small Town Big Arts. Remember to rate and review us and share with your friends. To learn more, visit us at smalltownbigarts.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Jeffrey Kirshner.